All right, yeah, I'm recording now. Cool. Okay, chapter 15. National Judiciary. I think we know why we have it. Article 3 of the Constitution. Okay, yeah. So we need to pay attention to the dual system of courts in the United States. The state and federal. That's very important to know about. It's not just the Supreme Court. And then smaller courts, you need to understand the difference between state and federal, and then you need to know like the two different types of state and federal courts, like the appellate courts and then the district courts. So I think that shows up later on. We'll go over that in depth a little bit more. Okay, so Hamilton and Federalist 78. We're gonna go over Federalist 78, but in Federalist 78, his main talking point is the judicial branch, and some of the things that need to be paid attention to in the judicial branch, especially judicial independence. And so he talks about this in a couple of ways, including term length, or in that case, lifetime tenure, and the appointment process of the judges in the Supreme Court. And he also talks about how the judicial branch was made to be the weakest branch because they don't have the power. They don't have power over purse or sword. They merely have the power to judge. We'll go over that in depth when we get to Fed 78. But for now, those are some important points to keep in mind. Sorry if I'm slurring my words. I went to the dentist at 3:30 and they added new wires, so it takes some getting used to. Okay, jurisdiction, official power to make legal decisions and judgments. I'm sure you have heard this in news, TV shows, anything like that. You've definitely heard it in one context or the other. So I'm pretty sure you can snake out the definition. Original jurisdiction, power to hear a case for first time. Appellate jurisdiction, concurrent jurisdiction. Some cases can be heard in federal or state courts, and then appellate jurisdiction is higher courts have the power to review a lower court's decision. So these are just kind of the judicial branch's way of, making sure that there's some sort of hierarchy between the state and federal courts, hence the appellate jurisdiction. Gideon versus Wainwright is one of the court cases that we are going to go over later on, so we'll save that. Okay, so this is the federal court system. So we have the Supreme Court, obviously, and then we go lower to the state Supreme Courts, which includes the United States Courts of Appeals, which is the appellate courts I was talking about earlier. And then it drops down to the United States District Courts, and so they have like a map, and it's like split up into different districts, and each district has one court. And they have jurisdiction involving federal crimes, civil suits under federal law, civil suits between citizens, admiralty and maritime disputes, bankruptcy, etc., etc. Two categories below Supreme Court. Courts of appeal, like we talked about, territorial courts, like we talked about. Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Anything? Nope, we're all good. Awesome. Okay, so the federal courts authorized by Article 3, we discussed that earlier. The judicial branch was designated by Article 3 of the Constitution, and so that includes the constitutional courts. Legislative courts were also, they were created by Congress for specialized purposes, but they don't fall under the same circumstances and exceptions of Article 3 of the Constitution. It's important to know the difference between them because that may very well be a test question. And based on what I've seen so far, her questions aren't extremely complicated. They usually ask for definitions, differences, things like that. And so if this happens to be a question, paying attention to something like this could save you some time. District courts, courts of appeals, we talked about this. So in the previous slide, we talked about how the legislative court, it doesn't fall under protections of Article 3, while the constitutional court does. Similar to that, each of these courts has their own set of rules that they need to abide by. And so the district courts abides by the Judiciary Act of 1789. While we talked about the courts of appeals was kind of a special, it was made on special circumstances, which is why it's not protected by the article of, or not the article of the Constitution.
Wait, I thought Court of Appeals were still constitutional. Like they were still constitutional courts.
Are they? I don't think.
Because on the next slide it says 2 types of constitutional courts, and it lists them. Or no, on that slide, the title of that slide.
This one?
Yeah, 2 types of constitutional courts.
Oh my God. Okay, that makes life so much easier because when she first taught this, I was very confused about that.
Okay, so that's kind of confusing to me as well. Like just kind of like the division between constitutional and legislative versus district and court and state and federal. Like there's a lot of like different hierarchies going on.
Yeah.
I think we drew like that little like diagram sort of thing in class, which was helpful. So I think it's so there's like federal courts and then state courts, correct? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry to interrupt. Naseem is in the waiting room. She just wanted to, yeah.
And then under federal courts, there's the Supreme Court, and then under that, I guess, is like constitutional and legislative, and then under constitutional is district and court of appeals. It's kind of weird, but I mean, anyways, sorry to interrupt.
Yep, no, you're fine. I had to write it down too, just to keep track of it. Okay, so like I said, they have a map that determines each of the districts and areas which have courts. So there are 13 appellate courts. So as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. One thing I don't understand about this, and I actually have to Google, is why the West has one really big district, but then as it moves farther and farther east, it's like way more bunched up.
I think it has to do with population, if I had to take a guess. Because those Midwest states are very, very rural, right?
Okay, yeah, I think, that makes sense. No, I was confused at first because California is the most populous state in the country, and then they paired it with like Nevada and Arizona. But then here they have like New York with like Vermont and Connecticut, and I don't think those two really are equal, but I mean, it probably is population. I'll check it out. Okay, and so inside each of these larger districts, there are smaller ones, and those determine the 94 district courts that we have. So you can see by the key the district boundaries, western, northern, eastern, southern, that kind of, Okay, U.S. Supreme Court was in the news recently. Amy Coney Barrett got, confirmed by the Senate, if I'm not mistaken. And, okay, so it says only court created by the Constitution, but then up here it's like, what? Okay, I need it.
So I think it's weird because the Constitution says that Supreme Court, like it talks about the Supreme Court, but then it says, Congress can figure out the rest. They can figure out the rest of the federal courts. So
it says that they have the right to make smaller courts, but it doesn't specify which smaller courts there are.
Yeah.
So technically, it is the only court like created by the Constitution, but like it's authorized by the Constitution to be able to make those smaller courts.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I guess the district and appeals courts are still constitutional because they're still like, I guess there are provisions for Congress to create them, and that's why they get like the protections. That's my reason.
Also, I'm not sure if that map is based on population because it doesn't really make sense for New York to have 2 and then like these states to have 4. Like I know it's like more states, but like New York has like a really big population.
I think it's like state boundaries as well as, I don't know. Is
this Court of Appeals?
Because I think this is...
The dark ones are Court of Appeals. The dark lines are circuit courts, and then the lighter lines in between are districts.
Yeah.
Because each state has at least one district.
Yep.
The ones like Wyoming that are very lessly populated, they only have one district in their state, whereas Texas or even New York might have multiple districts, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for these states to have 10, like Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, to have 10, and then California with like more states than that like area to have only like less Court of Appeal. So I don't think it's.
I don't think that's the number of Court of Appeals, Asim. I think that's
Is it
like
not? Oh, I was
it's
so
not.
confused.
It's the number of. It's like the 5th district or the 5th circuit or the 10th circuit.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I was
it's
so
it's the region
confused.
number.
I was so confused.
Oh, okay.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, if someone has a case in like Montana, they shouldn't go all the way to California to hear it appealed. I just thought of that too because I counted in there 10. All right, anyway, I'm getting off track. What was I about to say? Right. Okay. U.S. Supreme Court, only court created by the Constitution. Size was set by Congress in 1869. I might have to look at the details on that because they might have set some other stuff that I don't know about. 8 justices and 1 chief justice. Does anyone know who all 8 justices are? By chance?
Sotomayor.
Uh-huh.
Roberts is the chief. Wait, no, sorry, the other. Okay, so we got Barrett now.
Right. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh.
They were in the news.
Clarence Thomas.
What's his name? S starts with an S. Oh God. Oh. Not S. Sorry, Alito. Right, Alito.
Oh
Alito,
yeah.
6. O'Connor is not on there anymore.
Sandra Day O'Connor, no,
she's not on there. She retired. Yeah. That's 6. I can't figure out the other 2. Not at the moment.
Yeah, I can't
should know
look
this.
at it.
Also, what does it mean by the size is set by Congress? Because, like, what does it mean by size? Because can't you, like...
Oh, because that's an issue right now, right? So they decided on 9 Supreme Court justices. The Constitution just said there would be a Supreme Court. They didn't say how many.
Yeah,
So
so
then-
why does does it mean that there is no size set? Is that what that means? Like...
Oh, like they set the size to 9 justices.
Oh, Stephen Breyer is one of them.
Ah, yes, Breyer.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Samuel Alito, Sonia said.
Kagan. That's right,
Kagan.
The one I
Kagan.
forgot. Yeah.
Yes. I even watched her confirmation. That's why I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Sandra Day O'Connor
O'Connor, she
retired.
retired, yeah.
Kennedy retired. I know Souter retired too. Okay,
Yes.
so
Souter.
I know Barrett's on this list now too.
Yes, I don't think because I don't think she's like officially on there yet.
Yeah.
Like she's been confirmed and she's said her oath and everything, but I don't think she's like officially on.
Yeah, they haven't put it all on
Yeah.
like the websites and made it 100% official. Okay. Anyway,
That's the bureaucracy. Takes forever to get things done.
didn't Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say that like they need to reduce the number of justices there are because it was like I don't know.
Well, it's a controversial
Something
issue.
like
I
that.
mean, there's
said
a
pack
lot
the
of different
court.
opinions.
Yeah, pack the. Wait, did she say?
She
add
said pack
more?
the court.
Yeah, she wants to add more justices. That it's, like, not
That's why it's an issue
That's what
because some
pack the
people
court
don't
means.
want there to be more justices on the court, and it's just an issue. There's a huge issue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, more Democratic leaders would want more people on the court to overcome the
That's
6-3
not
majority.
None of this is.
Yeah.
I don't know if
That's what's
it's not
going
on
on
their
right now.
it's not on the Democratic Party platform that they want to do that, but that's become a more recent
Right.
voice that they want to pack the Supreme Court. But I mean it's debatable, and I don't think that there's one like common view even among the parties of what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that at the end of the day, it would be really difficult to add Supreme Court justices regardless of who's in Congress. I think it would be really difficult to do that. That doesn't mean it should be or it shouldn't be. I'm just saying that it'd be really difficult to do it.
To answer the question about, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
To answer the question about like the division of the circuit courts, like how it's divided like that, it was divided like that like a long time ago, and so it wasn't like redrawn. So like obviously population has changed, and so it's like that's how it was like back then. From what I've been looking at, I haven't found that much about it, but
That's kind of interesting.
Then didn't California have more people? So why are they part of like the bigger?
not that many people lived in California.
Yeah,
like,
not
yet,
until like
'cause, you know, the West.
1850-ish. That's
like the gold rush and
started.
stuff.
The 18, yeah, I thought because of the gold rush there would be a lot of people living in California at that
I
time.
mean,
Just like
But think
Yeah,
about it
but, like,
comparatively
couldn't-
though. Comparatively, you have to think about the rest of the other states in those areas. It's just land. It's just land. That there's
Yeah.
barely anyone in
Dude.
land and cows. Just land and cows. And then as you get further east, the population increases a lot. That's why you'll have more districts in the east and less in the west. So it took time for it to it just wasn't. Yeah, comparatively, it still wasn't.
All right. Changes in Supreme Court's focus. Okay, so we all know what a landmark Supreme Court case is, right? Like a really important Supreme Court case that like sets a precedent for a highly debated topic in the country. Okay, yeah, that's what a landmark Supreme Court case is. All of these are landmark Supreme Court cases. These three right here. Changes in Supreme Court's focus. Okay, so does it mean changes in the Supreme Court or changes in the Supreme Court's vision and views?
Their vision, I think. They're not vision, but like the topics that were, I guess, debated on those.
like what's more controversial over time.
Oh, okay.
And I know that, for example, even today, something that's really controversial is abortion and what else? Like the Affordable Care Act was something that they brought up a lot in Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation hearings. What else?
Gun rights.
Even gun rights, gay marriage.
Gun rights,
These are
yeah.
things that are questionable because what people will talk about is, does the federal government have a responsibility to protect these things, or is that something that's left to the states? So that's what the debate is about. And a lot of the time, it's not even, the debate isn't necessarily about whether the issue itself is right or wrong. The issue is more about who has the power to control it, which is, I found that interesting.
I'm just Googling something real quick. Warren G. Harding.
Who is Warren G. Harding?
29th president. In my opinion, he was one of the worst presidents because he was a gambler with a bad addiction. And one time he bet the entire set of White House china on a game of chess and he lost.
I don't wait.
know
Is that
that.
referring to him, that Warren? Because usually the name of the court is named after the Chief Justice. So is it that same?
No,
Warren?
the Warren Court came 30 years after he died, so I don't think it's named after him.
Oh, and that's one of those presidents that I don't even know. There's like this time in history that has just random presidents who I don't know at all.
Yeah, like Calvin Coolidge and other random presidents like that. Anyways.
Alina, to answer your question, I know that because we had these books in my 5th grade classroom about the periodic table and then presidents and stuff, and they made the information really easy to memorize. And I just remember that one thing because back then, losing the whole set of White House china on a game of chess was the worst thing I thought a president could do.
That's so funny.
Okay, this is Warren Court is referring to Chief Justice Earl Warren, just FYI.
Okay. Cool. I don't know who that is, but cool. Anyway, Brown v. Board of Education, we all know what this is about. She wanted to go to
The Brown.
school where, only white kids were allowed to go, and lawsuit, similar to Ruby Bridges' situation, except Ruby Bridges didn't sue anybody. Gideon versus Wainwright, we will go over that. Miranda v. Arizona. I don't know what Miranda v. Arizona
That's what gives you your Miranda rights and you have the right to
remain silent if you don't have a lawyer. One will be
basically his argument was that because they didn't tell him that he had the right to remain silent, everything that he said that led to his confession was unconstitutional, which is it's tricky. And I think that's something important to note is a lot of the time when the Supreme Court makes a decision, it's not a matter of they don't think this is in US v. Lopez especially, sometimes when we think of that, we're like, oh my gosh, how could they have voted like that, right? But sometimes it's not about the issue itself. Actually, all the time, it's not about the issue itself. They vote based on the case at hand. And sometimes if the case isn't framed in a way that actually addresses the issue and tries to bypass it with another issue, then that it becomes controversial, right?
Okay, the Burger Court? Okay, anyway, Burger Court, fun. Yummy, anyway. Roe v. Wade, we all know what that's about. Abortion rights. Then we have U.S. v. Nixon, which I believe was Watergate. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was.
It has to do, and it's basically said, I think, that because
Oh.
they have something called executive privilege, I think, where basically they get to keep secrets, the president. And in this case, the Supreme Court said that just you can't keep everything a secret. There are certain things that you can't keep secret.
Right.
That had to do with the Watergate.
Okay. I just realized they're calling it Warren Court and Burger Court and Rehnquist and Roberts Court because that's the name of the Chief Justice at the time of this hearing. Okay. Anyway, Rehnquist and Robert Court's more conservative, but has not overturned many liberal decisions. Obergfell versus Hodges Mgd. Do you know what this one's about?
Gay marriage.
Gay marriage? Okay, all right.
It made it a federal protection, the right to gay marriage.
Okay, I did not know that one. Cool.
Now, just to be clear, if the Supreme Court, just real quick, just to be clear, if the Supreme Court had made that decision, that doesn't mean that gay marriage is outlawed. It means that the states have the right to choose that.
Okay. Quick question. Does anyone know how many of the justices right now are conservative or liberal?
Right now, with Amy Coney Barrett, it's now 6 conservatives and 3 liberals. Which is why people want to pack the court.
Yeah.
Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Barrett, Roberts.
And see, this is the other thing. Roberts is called conservative, but we saw a graph right in class. He's making more liberal decisions.
Right.
So that's something to take into mind. Hopefully, I think I like to think, I don't know, and this isn't always the case. I like to think that judges aren't political. And that they make decisions solely based on the facts of the case. But obviously, there's personal bias. So that's why there's arguments to pack the court and not pack the court. So it's just, it's back and forth.
This is something important to consider. You see all these like court cases we talked about. It's like lawsuits and like disputes and all that. But like today, like Amy Coney Barrett's like confirmation hearing, it's not directed more at like settling disputes. It's at like pushing one party's agenda, I guess. So they act like policymakers. Fun. Yeah. Okay, I'm confused. This is just a quick point of clarification. So the Republicans control the Senate and the Democrats control the House, right?
At the moment?
Yes.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, economics and civil liberties laws overturned by the Supreme Court by decade. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I think she just said the main thing for this one is that like civil liberties obviously like peaked around the time of the civil rights era. I think that's all she said was important about this.
Okay, all right. Oh yeah, okay. So like 1960s and 70s is when it was a big thing. I think economic was big around this time because World War I, obviously, and it like kind of drops towards the end of World War II. It kind of rises up again back actually. But civil liberties. Oh, you know why it peaks in the 70s and not in the 60s? Because the Vietnam War was during the 70s, and they thought that was like unnecessary and all. There was like a lot of protest. So I think that's why civil liberties also peaked in the 70s. I mean, they rise in the 60s because of the civil rights movement, but I think they peak in the 70s because of that. Okay.
By overturned, do they mean like declared unconstitutional? Like what exactly does that mean?
So the way I understand it is before a case goes to the Supreme Court, it usually goes to like a district court first. And when they say overturn, I think the Supreme Court rules in the opposite direction that the district court said. The way I understand it, like the way I put it in terms that helps me understand. So like in football, the refs, they'll like make one call and then like the coach will challenge it and then they go over it again and then they decide, oh wait, we were wrong. So they're like the call has been overturned or the call has been upheld. It's like that,
Okay, thank you.
I hope that helps. That helps me. So yeah. Judicial selection. Okay, so judicial selection, it's different process from being selected to the Senate or the House of Representatives. It's a lot more what do you call it? Thorough, I guess is the word, because being in control of America's largest and most important court system is something that should not be taken lightly. Senatorial courtesy gives weight to the preferences of the senators. I think this. Wait, okay. MG, do you know why senatorial courtesy applies to the district courts but not the Supreme Court?
Oh, because Supreme Court is more, it's the final say, right? And it doesn't have to do with the district, because senatorial courtesy says, okay, I'm from this state, so the courts, so the judge in this court in my state, I'd prefer that you nominate her, him, or I don't prefer that you nominate her or him. Whereas the Supreme Court allows to the whole nation, so there's not really one person from that district.
Okay, all right. American Bar Association, interest groups, other justices.
You saw the confirmation hearing. There were, if you saw the confirmation hearing, for ACB, there was stuff about like the ABA submitting letters, either supporting. I think they supported her.
Yep.
Other interest groups some who did support and some who didn't support, and then there were. I don't think the other justices said anything here. I might be mistaken.
Yeah, I was about to talk about that. The American Bar Association was, I think they were actually a little bit more involved in this confirmation hearing than some of the past ones, mainly because of ACB's like experience too, because she's been a part of the American Bar Association for quite some time now. Okay, it says remaining meeting time 10 minutes, which is good because I have to go in 10 minutes. So we'll just go until the end, and then MG, if you want, you can start your own and go over the rest.
We can do the Quizlet if we want to, because I know some of us just wanted to do some practice questions. But this is helpful. I think this will really help me, because just as a reminder of it.
Okay, so I'll finish up this PowerPoint. Okay, do you guys want to finish the PowerPoint and then move on to Fed 78, or can we just move on to Fed 78 now?
I think you did a pretty good summary of Fed 78 in the beginning. I don't know.
Okay,
what about everyone else? Do you guys want to go over Fed 78, or are you guys happy with because I think Gotham covered everything.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right, cool. We'll just finish up Chapter 15, and then we'll do as much of Engel v. Vitale and Wisconsin v. Yoder as possible. Judicial nominations and confirmations, decline in federal appeals court nominee confirmations, lengthier confirmation hearings, federal judges making more policy decisions, nomination process longer, more ideological, more uncertain. Yeah, that makes sense, especially with the last 3 confirmation hearings with Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett. You can kind of tell there was a difference between now and the previous presidents nominating people. And so this slide up here, this kind of ties in to this. So that's something important to consider. Female judicial appointments are on the rise, which is a good thing. Never a bad thing. I don't know why Reagan just dropped, but
Reagan was highly conservative. And that was,
that's why.
And once again, that's another thing. It's conservatives. I don't know if, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I think, especially, hopefully not today, but especially earlier on, during the Reagan era and everything, conservatism was also more social conservatism and not just economic liberalism.
Right. Okay.
Question really quick.
Yeesh.
So on the definitions, on like the Unit 4 definitions, for senatorial courtesy, it says like, it said like the definition, it said like if they are opposed by a senator of the president's party. So if the senator is like, let's say the president, okay, let's say that right now. Let's say if the senator is like a Democrat, then will they still apply the senatorial courtesy or no?
Ooh, it's senatorial courtesy is like, it's an unwritten tradition. It's just something.
Yeah, it's like implied.
And now, especially with party polarization and, Republicans say one thing and Democrats automatically oppose it. Democrats say one thing and Republicans automatically oppose it. These patterns are hard to predict now. I think senators are better friends with each other, even if they're from the opposite party, but now things are changing. So that's difficult to say. I don't know if that's
not sure if it has to do with like I don't know. Like it has to do with like the president's party as much as it has to do with the senators because it's a district court rather than a federal court. So they care more about the state views rather than the country views. Like if it was like California where the state is like super democratic, then obviously they wouldn't try to appoint a Republican or conservative judge. So
see, here's the thing though. If say for whatever reason President Donald Trump appoints or nominates a more liberal judge in California. Now, all the Republicans in the court, this wouldn't happen, but all the Republicans in the Senate would be opposed to this liberal judge. Mm-hmm. And say it's in California, though. Say that the senator from California supports it, but the Republicans have the majority in the Senate. So in this time, I really don't think the Republicans would support it.
I think I might not have like studied enough, but like when it says like for like senatorial courtesy, it's saying that like for like a district court that like if a nominee from like a certain state that the senator has to like approve of the judge. Like I'm just like a little.
They don't have to. It's just like a sort of implied thing. Also on the definitions as well, it says it can also be applied to the Court of Appeals. And I don't
know how that would work because there's like the circuits are this they're, as we saw, the circuits are really big. So I think it might have to do with it's not, I don't think it's an official rule. That's why there's like leeway. So it's like, so say I think Texas is District 5, I might be wrong, but Circuit 5, I meant to say. The 5th Circuit, and Texas is also bunched in with Oklahoma, right? Say Texas supports it and then Oklahoma doesn't support it, then there's issue. But if both Texas and Oklahoma they both support it, then I would think that because they're both supporting it, they could convince the other senators, look, this is our circuit, and we're both from this circuit, and we both support it, so you guys should support it too. So I think it's more of an unofficial thing, and it's just kind of like making buddies in the Senate.
Wait, this might be like a dumb question, but does the Senate have to approve of the appointees of a district court?
Oh yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any federal
court. Basically like what MG was just saying, that's why senatorial courtesy, while it is like that like senator, it's also like courtesy of like the other senators who they'll just like kind of go along with it because senator from
thank you.
It's courtesy to that senator. Not that senator being courteous to everyone else.
Also, this isn't like that important, but Oklahoma is not in the same district as Texas.
I'm so sorry. I guess Texas would be bunched with.
It's Louisiana and Mississippi.
Interesting. Okay.
So I didn't want to like confuse you. So
thank you. No, you're good. Yeah, and I think modern day, I feel like Texas would probably be bunched with Oklahoma, just because that's, I guess, how the population would be if they don't. Because Louisiana is pretty populous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's continue. Cool. Minority judicial appointments. More blacks were appointed when Obama and Clinton were president, and Hispanics were also appointed more than.
Sotomayor, I think, is a.
Yeah, I think Sotomayor is one of them. When was Clarence Thomas?
Clarence Thomas. He's been on there for a while.
Yeah, I think
Clarence Thomas is actually a conservative. Clarence Thomas is not. I know that's something we tend to associate a lot, and that's something I think is important to note out is that Clarence Thomas, though a black person, is actually conservative. And he follows a more.
He was appointed in 1991.
Bush, yeah.
That makes sense.
Particularly rigorous and dramatic round of Senate hearings, accused him of harassment. Interesting. Yeah,
it's tricky, I mean, when it comes to, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I forgot he's the longest on the court.
And that's why he actually, if you saw ACB's swearing in, he's the one who actually came in and actually did the swearing in, because that's a tradition as well. Is the oldest
I think I saw that.
member on that court.
Anyway.
Anyways, okay, all right. I think we're almost done, right?
Yeah, we have 2 more slides.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Judicial review, very important to know. The power of courts to declare laws unconstitutional. There are 2 approaches, not parallel to conservative and liberal. Okay, so judicial restraint is they decide based on the language of the law's constitution. I think judicial activism is they don't do it based on personal prejudice. They take the laws in the Constitution and then they apply them to the circumstances of today's world.
Scalia said it very, very eloquently, I think. Judicial restraint is more of an originalist approach, where they're looking at the text of the Constitution, what it means at that time, whereas judicial activism is looking at it as the Constitution as a living document, as it changes, its meaning changes over time. And different people have different.
All right, cool. Judges make bold policy decisions, even charting new constitutional ground. Okay, so yeah, this makes sense right here, because they're kind of widening the